everybody. Today we're taking a look at Vaesen or Vaesen. I never know how to pronounce this. Now, I know in the past we've actually covered Mythic Carpathia and the actual core book before, but these are actually newer updated editions that essentially is further refining the rules, making them a little bit more streamlined, and making better use of the year zero mechanics. Now, in the original edition, there were some ambiguities, and those have all been cleaned up quite a bit. And since this edition, older supplements that they had are still compatible with the actual core game. Now, one thing that I've always loved about this game is just the attention to detail. The team always does a fantastic job. I love the actual sketch work itself. And right here, the actual text, the way it's written, very much looks like you're receiving a letter from somebody from that era. And then the lindworm and some of the other creatures, they've done a fantastic job on the art for. And overall, the game as a whole is just fantastic. Now, the focus of this review, other than the fact that the game is still holding up, still worth playing, is to take a look at City of My Nightmares and the actual starter set. So each of these, the City of My Nightmares is continuing the general theme of the Nordic and Scandinavian mythologies from the 19th century, but bringing those horrors into a city setting. So that way, when players no longer want to spend time out in the woods and the mountains, now you still have the ability to really make a terrifying game and have it be now centered in those cities. Now, one thing I love that Free League does sometimes is just their extra things that they include. Like here we have an actual newspaper from if you were playing, being one of the characters reading it, and then it doubles as an actual map as well. And of course, the starter set does not want to open up. There we go. Okay. So in the starter set, we have a bag of dice, simple D6, so you could use your own dice if you don't want to get this just for the dice. We have our initiative cards, typical games catalog, and then here you can see that there are a lot of other adventures available, but they're not all republished through Free League yet. We have a streamlined version of the rules for the starter set, The Haunting of Castle Gillenkreutz, pretty sure I butchered that, the Codex Occultum, and this is basically more just highlighting the different monsters and enemies that you're gonna have to deal with in a way that the players can hold on to it without actually having the keys to the entire story. And then we have quick reference sheets. We have the actual letters referenced in the story. And then of course the last ones do not want to come out very well. So we have some of the new characters, as well as their pre-filled out character sheets on the back. And then we have the last map that comes with it. Now, to play the game, you do not need the starter set, and the starter set does not require you have the actual core book to truly play it, but having them all together does provide for a lot more adventures in terms of content, because the main mission from the starter set is not available in the core book at all. And then, of course, there are campaign stories from the core book that are not contained in here. And plus the core book having a much deeper dive into the actual mechanics of the game. Now, the City of My Nightmares, like I said, the big focus of that is the urban horror. And honestly, I think that the way that it builds the tension, focusing on anonymity among the crowds, isolation, and dealing with some of the hidden threats, kind of blending in some social horror, things like that, definitely are a very unique take on the world itself, but still keeping it true to its roots. And I think City of My Nightmares, they did a fantastic job with it. And if you are a fan of this game, it's absolutely worth picking up. And consistently, the game itself as a whole, it really does emphasize the overall storytelling, the social interactions, researching different threats and different events, and kind of take an investigative approach to each of the stories. And the enemies or monsters, are, some of them are very much like traditional Fae, where some of them can be bartered with. Some of them will be bound by certain rules. They're victims of change in general, where they've been cursed by a god or a Fae of some sort that has exacted their fee in a way that they obviously did not want. And so a lot of those now have more tragic backstories, and it definitely makes for a really dark and spooky storytelling overall. And honestly, my group had a lot of fun with this one, mostly because of the strong ties to established Fae lore in those areas. And Fae lore in general is something that we've always been real big fans of. And so being able to go in and experience that, and while dealing with a corrupt city, and that's basically feeding some of the monsters, the undesirables of the city, and find the actual true causes of that. We had a lot of fun. And so this one definitely is another win from Free League. The team always does a fantastic job, but the immersive nature of these books is just absolutely fantastic, with all of the supplementals, like with the letters and the maps and stuff. So it makes for a very in-depth experience that is well worth playing for any table that enjoys a good horror story. And so again, we had a great time with this. Thank you to Free League for sharing this with us, of course, and thank you guys as always for watching. And I hope you do consider picking these up, because they're an absolute gem. But we'll catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.
Now I'm set, painting minis with no regret. Set up fast, tear down clean. It's the slickest station I've ever seen. Whether Faye or Hammer, walking Create trophies to keep that clear suspects. No clutter, no stress, just pop and play. Think your squad and save the day, hey. I've tried the rest, but this one slays. From dungeon crawlers to sci-fi rays, it's my go-to. My tabletop gem, create trophies the kit, yes ma'am. So if you're a hobbyist like me, here's the link to paint stress free. Join the fun, let your colors run free. Whether you're painting Warhammer, The Walking Dead, or Apex, create trophies to get that clear suspects. No clutter, no stress, just pop and play. Put your squad and save the day. I've tried the rest, but this one slays. From dungeon crawlers to sci-fi rays, it's my go-to. My tabletop gem, create trophies the kit, yes ma'am. So if you're a hobbyist like me, here's the link to paint stress free. Join the fun, let your colors run free.